Good day, everybody. We are now online with our next speaker that's going to join us. GOITSEONA RASEROKA, and I really think I've made a botch of that. Functional Strategy Senior Manager for Accenture South Africa. So supply chain transformation is at the forefront of almost every organization's transformation agenda. How can we reimagine supply chain by leveraging digital accelerators, allowing supply chain professionals to focus on value-adding activities? In unpacking this topic, GOITSEONA will speak to what it means to be a consultant in this space, as well as giving an overview of Accenture's capability by sharing some case studies of real work that has been done in this area. So this morning we are starting off with woman power. So I'd like to welcome GOITSEONA to the stage. Thank you for your time. And everybody, I have no doubt you will thoroughly enjoy her presentation. So take it away for me.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you for this opportunity to be able to share, the world of consulting and some of the work that we've done to date. Just going to share my screen. Please let me know when you can see it. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can, we just need it on presentation mode. There we go.
Okay, so in business consulting, we typically deal with challenges or dilemmas that multiple organizations face. And I think within the supply chain space, they're typically the same. And I'm just going to take you through an overview of how supply chain has transformed over the years, what are the typical challenges that we see within our client environments, and what we have done to sort of assist them in untangling those. And also, prior to us getting to the actual case studies that have been shared, I will then give you an overview of some of the digital accelerators that can be put in place outside of sort of the traditional core ERP systems that have been put in place. So during the 1990s, strategic sourcing and procurement, or supply chain, typically focused on dynamics or themes such as contract management, category management, as well as supplier relationship management, even though they were still very low in terms of maturity, right? Then the global recession happened and everything changed. It forced companies to make more aggressive cuts in the face of volatility. So contract management, risk and regulation, demand management, and having sort of a good footing on that in terms of, how do you meet end user requirements became more prevalent, as well as cost cutting, enabled through what we call in our space zero-based budgeting. Later on, as we progressed into sort of 2016 and ongoing, digital became a huge theme, right, in terms of unlocking new value. And here we see organizations leveraging ecosystems. We see insight management coming up as a huge theme to say, how do we make sure that all the decisions that we make within the organizations are decision driven? So that touches on data. What does your data look like? Is it structured? Do you have an integrated view across the organization to make insight-driven decision or insight-led decision? And, how do you then leverage all the digital enablers outside of your traditional core ERP system to unlock that type of value? So in looking at some of the challenges that a lot of the SCM functions are still struggling to adapt and operate against are poor response time. So you find that, end users are sending through the requests. However, there's either lack of capacity or due to unfragmented data, you can't leverage data sources in a way that you can leverage the insights in a quick way. There's very limited market insights. Therefore, when you have to develop your sourcing strategy or go out to market, you still have to do your typical Google searches for supplier bases and the likes. So that all results in poor response time by the supply chain management team. Lack of visibility. I think I've touched on this a little bit in the opening slides to say that, you don't necessarily at a click of a button have full visibility of what the organization is spending, what their buying patterns look like, what their consumption patterns look like. You don't necessarily know in, say, for example, the oil and gas environment, when it's time for turnarounds, how materials are linked to sort of the bill of material and the likes of that. We've seen flexible technologies also playing a huge role. So there are a lot of traditional legacy systems in place, and organizations are typically faced with a dilemma to say, do we pivot to the new? And what is the cost going to be that's associated with now bringing in new technology, getting rid or decommissioning our existing technology, and what value will it add? So typically in this area, they'd want us to build some form of business case or value case to showcase that, by relooking or reimagining your traditional ERP platforms and adding bespoke edge solutions, you can then unlock additional value. Conflicting priorities. I think this is also a major theme that emerges when we engage organizations to say KPIs are not necessarily aligned, right? So you find that KPIs are sort of built in silos and they're conflicting to some extent, not enabling an integrated operation to ensure that everybody's KPIs are aligned and each of the functions, the enterprise functions, work in such a way that they support the realization of each of those KPIs. Talent scarcity is also one thing that's been emerging over the past couple of years. I think that when we speak of tactical sourcing and buying, there hasn't been sufficient emphasis that's been placed on it being an actual profession and requiring buyers or people that come from a supply chain management background. I think typically what we find is that, there's a low talent or a low capability in terms of execution that starts in that area. And the primary focus then becomes on category management and sourcing, where they place more seasoned commodity specialists that have insights in terms of the commodities that they're trying to drive. So these are some of the challenges that we see when we engage different organizations in the supply chain management space. And it's not the full view of it, it's just some of them. And based on the work we do, we would then engage either by developing a strategy to help them turn around their business, or in some instances, they require execution support in the sense where we can then provide that execution support for implementation. Or in some instances, they outsource the entire source to pay function to us. We have an operations leg within our firm, and we are running a couple of source to pay function for a couple of our clients. I think the spend under management there is around 1.2 billion, if I'm not mistaken. So in response to some of these challenges that organizations are facing, they are now leveraging technology as a key enabler to transform their supply chain management capabilities. So some of the key metrics that we're looking at in terms of what performance looked like if you look at 2017 versus 2020 are sort of cost of procurement as a percentage of spend. So initially in early 2007, you'd say it was around 1%. However, now when we look at masters and how they're performing in the space, you're looking at around 0.2 of your procurement spend as a percentage of total spend. Return on investment, around 2007, we were looking at 5%. Now we're looking at around 15 to 20% of addressable spend. So by addressable spend, I mean, cost categories that typical sourcing managers would go out on, and through negotiations or better insight benchmarking, they can then extract these, and by leveraging different levers, so not just price levers, but looking at the technical components of it, looking at price, looking at consumption. Controlled supplies as a percentage of all suppliers. So in early 2007, we were looking at 40%. Right now, we're looking at about 100%. And that also speaks to the contracting mechanisms that are in place, right? You're trying to limit the tail spend of the organization to make sure that, all your strategic suppliers are on contract. That spend is managed rigorously, and you can derive insights as and when consumption sort of happens or goes off a contract. Contract policy and compliance as a percentage of spend. I think this has become a very huge theme with everything that's been happening in the world and in South Africa specifically over the past couple of months, even a year. Corruption has become quite a big theme, and we see a lot of organizations investing in that capability. And insightful spend understanding as a percentage of overall spend. I think you can see in 2007, it was relatively low. It was sitting at 10%. And it's very difficult for organizations to integrate third-party solutions into the existing sort of core ERP platforms, where they'll then be able to leverage those insights by making sure that they have full visibility of their supplier base. They have commodity performance indicators that they can embed into their sourcing strategies and the likes of that. So there's been a huge trend of growth in ensuring that, analytics are leading to meaningful spend insights to inform the sourcing strategies that category managers typically develop. So how are procurement masters getting it right? So masters speak and impact finance. And by that, we mean that, you're not only looking at supply chain management, but you're also looking at finance as a function, and you're looking at the return of investment that's associated to that. You're seeing masters operate with lower selling, general, and administrative expenses as a percentage of revenue than their peers. Masters drive a higher return on investment, so 15 times more than what masters did in 2011, which was at around 10 times ROI. And they leverage in their ecosystem partners for value chain partnering, so that they can focus on some of their core capabilities in, their specific roles. So I'll touch on it in the case study that I'm going to share later. But you find that, for example, enterprise and supply development, as well as local content, are very prevalent and are almost a license to operate for most of our clients. However, they might not necessarily have the capability in-house. So how do we look at partnering with other partners within our ecosystem to ensure that we don't drop the ball there? However, we don't necessarily have to have this huge FTE baseline, full-time equivalent, for those who don't know, operating or inflating our operating costs. And lastly, masters are at the heart of the business. So masters are true business partners, right? With 15% more likely to be integrated into the executive committee. So instead of being a bystander as a procurement department or a supply chain management department, we are really at the core of the business.
Hi, everyone. We seem to have a slight technical glitch. We'll get onto it, working on it right now. We'll be with you in just a second.
Hi, everybody. I think we had a little bit of a technical glitch. We have seemingly lost our speaker. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can't see the speaker but you can see me? Okay. We need to find out where she's gone because she had a really good message to share with you all. So just bear with us. These are the joys of the virtual platform. Nothing is foolproof, and it's always there to test our technical capabilities. So, yeah, we can expect these things from time to time. So just bear with us for a couple of minutes while we see where she's gone. It's very possible that she's been kicked out of the platform. Every now and then it is there to challenge us. I just want to see if there's any notes. Okay, there are some good questions in the session, so we'll wait for her to come back. In the meantime, if you want to think about more questions that you have for her that you'd like to share, so that we have them ready and waiting when she comes back to us. There we go. There's a question from our team. In one word, what did you take away from Zanola's presentation? Oh. Everybody's very quiet. There we go. Keep them coming. I need to make sure you're all there and listening, so you need to put something in the chat for me. Otherwise, I might have to make you do jumping jacks. I know that I can't see you doing them physically, but I'm going to trust to see that you're doing them. Here we go. Inspiration, intentionality, bold, perseverance, encouraging, know your purpose, inspiring. Has it given you food for thought about your own personal career and what you need to be doing in terms of building something that for you is something to aspire to, what you need to do to work towards it? I mean, just sit and think now, how would you do that with the takeaways that you've had from Zanola's session? You know, it's not easy, it's hard work. You need to think about it. And of course, mentoring and coaching is absolutely necessary in order to create a sound career. And sometimes you need to wait things out. Don't rush. Don't make rash decisions. Don't make anything emotional. Oh, hello. You are back. Did our system kick you out?
Let's just have a look and see.
Yes, I see you.
Tanya,
I can see and hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can you see me now?
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Footsie. Have you managed?
Okay, it really is playing tricks with us today. But the most important thing is that she's back and hopefully ready to pick up where she left off from. Okay. And she's gone again. So going back to our conversation about what it is that you need to do as a student young professional. I like the words are still coming in, being intentional, dedication. There are so many new skills that are coming out for supply chain management professionals. And you need to take a look around for what those are. So whilst we are needing technical skills, and those will always be relevant, there's a lot of room for the soft skills. The warm and fluffy stuff that we always used to talk about. There we go. Are you back in business? Some internet challenges here.
Okay, I'm going to need you to go out completely and then...
This is very, very strange. This is really playing with us today. So, while we're waiting for our lovely lady to get back on the stage, let's go back to those soft skills. So, the soft skills are now moving ahead in terms of the skills that you need to be a well-rounded and holistic supply chain management professional. So gone are the days of, just having a degree or a qualification. There's so much more behind it now. And we've spoken about supply chain agility for many, many years. And I think supply chains have never had to be more agile than they have now. I mean, we are really stretching agility to a whole new level. And being a supply chain management professional operating in this space, if you've had the privilege and the opportunity to do that now, I think that is an exceptional way to learn about the way that things are going. But you have to be quick on your feet. You have to be responsive. You have to make snapshot decisions. And adaptability is a big thing. But the supply chains of the new normal, or the better place that people talk about us going to in terms of the profession, will require creative, innovative thinkers, people that can make a difference, completely thinking out of the box. People will be required to make more decisions by themselves. Leaders will have to give the mandate to their teams to make split time essence decisions. That's quite stressful. So one of the other skills that's coming up is a stress tolerance. So I think that people in the profession have been highly stressed with the decisions and the things that they've had to do within supply chain management. So how do you develop a skill that's stress tolerance? For me, that's something that I've never heard of. I must be honest with you. But these are interesting things that are coming through. One of the other important things is digital literacy and being able to manage, understand, interpret data. We're going to have massive amounts of data because that's what we want in supply chains is data. But the data is only as good as what you can do with it. So you've got it. How do you use it to improve your business? Improve efficiencies, develop I'm not going to say foolproof forecast because I don't think there's any such thing. I mean, everybody wishes for it, but it's still something that's hopefully going to come our way. But all these things are changing within the supply chain, and digital dexterity and data, sorry, I can't even pronounce that word, are going to be a competence that's required by anybody in the supply chain. So you need to think about that. Go and find out more about it. Is it something that you're learning about in your curriculum? Is it something that you're learning as a young professional on the ground at the moment? If it's not, find out more about it because you're going to need it. And I think with the change and all that's happened with COVID and all the events that we've had, one after the other, we've had COVID, we've had the riots and looting, we had the Transnet cyber attack. The pressure that's been put on supply chains has been something that I think we haven't seen for a very, very, very long time. So even the stalwarts of the supply chain profession haven't seen this kind of challenges, this kind of pressure within the supply chain. So it's how do you learn on your feet? So and this is what's had to happen, even with our stalwart supply chain professionals. So the skills of then and the skills of now are very different. So you kind of on an even keel, whether you are a seasoned professional or whether you're not. You've met the same challenges and you've all had to learn at the same pace and the same time. Risk management is something that's going to be kind of top of the pops, as they call it. How do you manage risk? How do you mitigate risk, especially with things that you don't see coming, or you have for no moment thought that they could possibly happen? Who thought that right after COVID we'd have all these riots taking place and happening? For 1 minute, who could have seen that warehouses and distribution centers would have been burnt down? The impact on the supply chains in terms of especially logistics and transport. And the fact that the companies were able to service the supply chain, given all that was going on, and they managed to keep our shelves stocked, because I didn't experience stockouts. I don't know if any of you did. If you did, tell me what it was. I hope it wasn't toilet paper, because by now you should have a full stock of that from when we started with COVID. But they kept us going. They kept food on the shelves. They kept money in the ATMs. They kept medicine on the shelves. And to be able to do that is incredible. I mean, if you look at some of those distribution centers were completely burnt to the ground. The product that was coming into the ports, they couldn't offload. When they did offload it, what did they do with it? Because those distribution centers had been burned down. They had to go somewhere. So there was a lot of improvisation and quick thinking that had to happen. And as a supply chain professional, that is what will be expected of you. You will be expected to come up with solutions quickly to be able to service the needs of the consumers. So think about that. If you're in that situation, what would you do and how would you do it? High pressure situation. So lots to think about in terms of the skills that you're going to need and you're going to develop. Because even with a degree from a reputable university, any university, there are still going to be gaps in what it is that you need to know to make value or add value into the supply chain profession. Because the wheels of academia do turn slowly, and it's not any fault of theirs, it's just the way the process happens. So you are going to have to do a lot of outside learning, a lot of attending of other sessions. So if you're not a SAFEX member, it's important that you become one. So through that, you're able to link into our community, our network, attend events like this, webinars, other sessions to learn more about the profession, understand where the gaps are and what you need to know, and make sure that you take in as much as you can while you have the chance. So when you leave academia, you have not experience, but you have accumulated a great amount of knowledge that will do you well and serve you well when you move into your future career. And our young professionals that are already in the working world, learn. Don't stop learning, because in this profession, you can't afford to. No day is ever the same, and it will remain that way. You know, supply chain has always been a fast-paced profession, but it is more so now, and it's not going to change anytime soon. These challenges that we've been faced with are going to keep coming at us, and they're going to keep coming at us. I mean, if we look at global supply chains, the Suez Canal, whoever thought a ship would block the Suez Canal? Whoever thought that we would have a shortage of shipping and being able to move goods, and the cost would be as exorbitant as it is? Whoever thought that we would now be faced with the pressures of power outages in Asia and China that are going to impact what's happening in the rest of the world? So from a global point of view, supply chains are reeling. I mean, you know that Santa this year is going to have a hard time, and his elves are not going to be enough to deliver what needs to get to where it needs to be for children to have Christmas presents. So the fact that our supply chains have been hampered as much as they have leaves us something to think about. So the fact that we in South Africa still have these things on the shelves and we're still running, kudos to our supply chain professionals, to you guys, to the people out there at the forefront in the trenches. Thank you. And know that you've chosen an incredible profession. You've chosen something that makes a difference and makes the world turn round. And every day that you get up and go to work, you make a difference and you do great things. And don't ever stop thinking about it like that. When you get up in the morning and you're tired and you want to go to work, just think about what it is that you're doing and how you are making a difference to the world and the economy. So I don't know how I'm doing for time. You know, I can talk an awful lot. So I hope I'm not putting you all to sleep at this point. Oh, hello. Jenny, you do know that you popped up on stage.
And I'm on mute and I'm supposed to be talking to you, but I'm trying to mute my other one so that I was just saying you're doing a fantastic job, and the hearts and the thumbs up and everything are just showing that. And thank you everybody for all the really great comments and things. And I think Tonya's got 4 minutes that she can go through that. But I just popped up and interrupted because I'm just going to explain to you what we're going to do is we're going to keep this session open and hope that we can get our fantastic speaker back again. And then we're going to ask her to finish her presentation so that we can then record it, that we'll then share with you afterwards with all the other recordings. But if you want to stay here, you're very welcome to stay here. But we're going to try and keep Benita on time, who's our next speaker, and we'll run a parallel session. So in the hope that this session we can get the speaker back, then she will continue her presentation. But when Tonya's sort of said thanks and gone through a couple of the comments on the other side, we can then leave this session. We're going to keep it open, so you're not going to get moved. You then need to click on sessions, find the next one that says live, join that, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks, Tonya. Well,
thank you, Jenny. So now everybody knows what has happened. You are free to go and move into the next session, even if you get there a little bit early, or you can post some comments in the chat for us as to your experience as a student or young professional in terms of what have you experienced about the supply chain profession, and where do you see it going? What do you think the biggest changes are going to be other than risk plan? And it shouldn't be in a file in a dusty corner somewhere. Risk, top of the pops. So yes, I think I'm out of time now. I need to stop talking. So I'm going to encourage you all to leave the session and join our next speaker. We have got lots of really good women on our agenda today. So woman power. Thank you, everybody. And I'm going to jump out of here, and I will see you later because I actually have my own presentation session later. So you get to listen to me again. But thank you all, and pop it into the next session. Bye for now.